Hey Clarity Crew, I just want to remind everybody about the emails that began all of this, right? So we talk a lot about the holes in the narrative interview, and that was obviously a big deal. But that interview was doing damage control for these emails that were leaked back in 2016. So I'm just going to go ahead and read some of these emails for us so we get a little bit of an understanding of why these emails were leaked, because people saw them as very damaging, because people like Dawa Man and Fareed saw Yasir Qadhi as hiding his beliefs, and that's why they wanted to leak this, to expose Yasir Qadhi as a deviant. So we're going to look at Yasir Qadhi's emails. He says, conclusion, the preservation of the Quran cannot then be a letter for letter, tashkil for tashkil narrative that later scholars verbalize and the Muslim Ummah is taught, not just at the Sunday school level, mind you. Rather, the preservation must therefore be interpreted in another manner. Okay, so that's one aspect of what he says. Then he goes down later and says, fact of theology. The Quran is kalima of Allah, the word of Allah, because it says so. Fact, parentheses, as per previous paragraphs in this second interpretation. The recitation of the Quran clearly has some human elements in it, from the faux pas to the lahajat, etc. Problem. How then can we understand the Quran as being kalam Allah, word of Allah, when clearly there are some human aspects to it? Problem compounded. The standard sectarian views either make this issue even more problematic, and in particular the Salafi view of kalam and the that Allah recited and Gabriel heard and Gabriel recited and the Prophet, peace be upon him, heard, etc., or don't really address this conundrum head on, such as the Ash'ari view, or perhaps allow for some accommodation, such as the Mu'tazilite view. So what is he saying here? He's saying clearly the word of Allah, the Quran, has human elements in it. So this is a problem. Why is this a problem? How can we understand it to be the word of Allah if there's human elements in it? And then he says this is even worse when you look at the different sectarian perspectives, the different sects of Islam and how they view it. You have the Salafis with the most strict view of the Quran, the most literalistic. This came from Allah to Gabriel to Muhammad, period, end of story, done. The Fareed perspective, right? And he's saying this is a huge issue for them, but it's also an issue for the Ash'aris, more, people who have a more moderate, less strict interpretation of the Quran, but it also poses an issue for them because they don't really deal with it, right? They're not actually confronting the issue. And then the only one who kind of can have a little wiggle room is the Mu'tazilites, but they were deemed as heretics a long time ago. And then basically Yasir Qadhi goes down later and it's like, hence we start from scratch, right? So he's saying we have two options. We discard all these theological schools and understand that none of them are in fact divine, and hence we cannot assume that they will answer each and every problem. So I think this is really what Yasir Qadhi was trying to do. He's trying to help the Ummah move forward. He's trying to be like, guys, we can't be fixated on this. This is a losing issue. The emperor has no clothes. We need to call it out ourselves before the villagers and the enemies call it out for us. So he's saying we can discard these theological schools and start from scratch. He says, hence we start from scratch and rethink through the entire notion of kalam. To facilitate this, we might imagine ourselves in the era of the Tabin, and that we are not so impeded by fully fleshed out theological boxes, and allow our thought processes to, pun intended, think outside the box. Okay, we are no longer confined to people labeling us as Ash'ari or Mu'tazili, and because we are now jettisoned those man-made constructs, and no doubt ambitiously, we are attempting to redraw the blueprints of a new structure. We do not feel constrained by these beautiful structures. So what is he saying here? He's saying, guys, we need to burn it down. We need to start over. We need to throw away these theological constructs, and we need to build it from the ground up because none of them answer the pressing questions. None of them fill the holes in the narrative. And I just want to remind everyone, this is why this is important, because you see this theological shifting now happening within the Muslim world of how to deal with the human elements in the Quran. And you see this with Yasir Qadhi himself, right? Why is he trying to purge these? I literally have 1,000, less than 2,000 subscribers, right? Why is he searching the internet looking for this interview to delete it? Why is he trying to destroy this? Literally like a Uthmanic recension. Why? What is going on? Because why? because it tells people that there are holes in the narrative, that this narrative of Quran preservation has holes in it. And it's a narrative that's based on Islamic sources. It's based on the most trusted Islamic sources. And if that has holes in it, then what is your doctrine of the Quran? In what sense, exactly like Yasir Qadhi said, in what sense is the Quran divine if the narrative of its preservation has holes in it, if it's not perfectly preserved, if all the readings of the Quran, all the variant readings by which you access the actual words of the Quran, access the Rasam, are not mutawatir, if they can't be proven to have divine origin with Muhammad himself, if that's not certain, then what do you do? What are you left with? I mean, was it just these people's interpretation? Were there errors mixed in? Like, what is this perfect Quran that you speak of? And this is why it's such a big deal, because this goes to the heart of Islam. What do you have in Islam? You have the man and you have the book, right? You have the Quran and you have Muhammad. And so when you're looking at the Quran and saying, well, actually, it might not be perfectly preserved, and actually we need to rethink what we mean by preserved, that is going to be a very, very, very interesting conversation. Thanks so much. Excuse me that this got a little bit ranty, but I just wanted to express and help you guys to see and understand. I hope everyone is doing great, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.